My name is Evan Amato, and in this series, we explore how Dostoevsky's work and wisdom guides us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves, our society, and our search for meaning. Now, in today's episode, we are speaking on Dostoevsky and the value of art, and I'm joined by my friend Elliot Honeycutt. We're going to start off with the dichotomy of form versus function, and then we'll get to talk about Dostoevsky's overall philosophy of art. So, Elliot, take it away.
In the same way that Dostoevsky saw philosophies and personalities with incredible nuance, Dostoevsky saw art as something that needed to be understood on multiple levels. So, during his time, it was very popular to take one of two very extreme opinions on art. There was this idea of art for art's sake, simply that creating something beautiful was the sole aim of art. On the other end of the spectrum, there was this idea that art was completely useless aside from the social change that it could create. And that was the idea that a lot of the members of the radical intelligentsia believed. There was a critic called Dobrolyubov, who Dostoevsky wrote an essay in response to. And this essay of Dostoevsky's sheds tremendous light on the way that he viewed art, what he saw as good art, and what he saw as a result as the role of the artist. And so there was a very popular writer at the time amongst the radical intelligentsia named Maria Markovitch. And Maria Markovitch created novels they were social novels. They were novels centered around values, much like Dostoevsky's writing. Dostoevsky started out writing purely social novels that were supposed to illuminate the plight of the poor, and they did a great job in that. His first book, Poor Folk, received incredible acclaim and got him noticed by one of the leading literary critics of the day, a man named Vissarion Belinsky. And Dostoevsky then began to learn about these philosophies of socialism and to learn more about how it was rooted in French philosophy of utopian, specifically utopian socialism, and also the English utilitarianism. Well, Dostoevsky saw that in the end, if art was pursued solely for the change that it would make physically in the world around us, that the art wouldn't be able to meet those ends, because it would be almost self-contradicting. Because the art, if we were to strip art bare so that it only accomplishes its function, then it's actually acting against one of its primary functions, which is that of being beautiful. And it is the beauty of art which stirs people to have the changes in values and attitudes and beliefs that are impossible without it.
So in that sense, it's the beauty of art itself which inspires one to adopt the morals or whatever it is that this, take action in the way that the art wants you to. Perhaps.
Exactly. And what Dostoevsky saw with Maria Markovitch's writing and how he responded to Dobrolyubov was by saying that, yes, her writing has the proper intention, right? And the values there are great, and he applauded that. But at the same time, the characters were simply one-dimensional. The characters were the bookish idea of what a heroine would be. The main heroine in the novel was simply like a cardboard cutout of a heroine. It wasn't a fully formed human. And Dostoevsky decided with his art he would create humans that were three-dimensional and that were as living as the people who you encountered on the street, and that he would use those individuals to illuminate these greater profound truths and to fill the world with proper values of love and charity.
Yeah, as you're speaking, the example of Lord of the Rings comes to mind, where if one wanted to simply speak about the importance of, friendship, and there are so many traits kind of expounded upon in this work. One could do so in an essay, but it's the fact of the beauty of Lord of the Rings, the story of it, the adventure of it, the incredible richness and depth of the world that Tolkien creates that actually allows us to absorb those on a deep level. So it seems to me that Dostoevsky was, of course, well aware of the ends to which the art strove, but he also recognized the necessity for the form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And connecting that to the urgency of it today. I know that this is something that we discussed previously, why Dostoevsky's his work is so urgent. Well, in the modern world, Dostoevsky would have believed that we are actually more disconnected from art because we see less need for it. Dostoevsky believed that, this is a quote from him, that beauty is most strongly developed in times of discord with reality, in times of struggle. That is when a man lives most fully. For the moment at which a man lives most fully is when he is seeking something. And this is when his need for beauty, his need for the harmonious and virtuous is displayed, and in beauty there's harmony and there's virtue. And so, or harmony and serenity, actually. And so we see with his writing that it's almost essential for us to be searching for something in order for us to want art in the first place, and then to transcend our current situation through art.
I love that. That's a brilliant kind of insight there of the fact of in times of discord, you search for harmony. You search for that serenity, and that is what art provides in those times. And so perhaps with some of the art, and I use that term very loosely, that we have now, we live in such a time of relative, peace and the harmony, that the art actually reflects the opposite a lot of the time, with some more of the, contemporary art that people make. But obviously with him, the importance of the beauty in order to teach the morals seems to be the most resonating factor that's in his work, and the freedom that's found in the form. And that's where, anytime I can pitch in about Dante, I like to pitch in about Dante, and Shakespeare for that matter. But speaking of Dante and Shakespeare, who very much, most of their work stuck to a very specific form. Dante's rhyme scheme and his verse stuck through it for the entire Divine Comedy. Shakespeare wrote an iambic pentameter for so many of his plays, and they would vary that up when needed, Shakespeare more so than Dante. But it wasn't in the erasure of form that they found freedom. It was actually within the form itself that they found the freedom, because it was in the form itself that allowed them the freedom to create, or the possibility, one might say, to create something that's harmonious and something that is serene and something that is beautiful, not despite the form, but rather because of it.
Yeah, exactly. He was always using mental models that had been created by other artists. It reminds me of Picasso's quote that great artists steal. So Dostoevsky had no shame in taking good plots from other writers, but because he wouldn't settle simply for these plots, but he would develop them and explore the full psychological ramifications of ideas on individuals, and he would use those plots for the structure. But he was so well versed in the literature of his day, in the writings of Charles Dickens, of de Balzac, of other writers like Anne Radcliffe, who was one of the first Gothic novelists, and of who it seems like Shelley was very much influenced. And Dostoevsky was able to piece together elements of story that he was taking from these other writers, in the same way that Leonardo da Vinci was able to piece together different skills related to painting that he had learned from studying the masters, and then use these to find something, a universal truth that transcended story, just as Da Vinci's truths transcended mere visual art.
Yeah, and I'll conclude this video with the simple quote by Dostoevsky: "Beauty will save the world."